morning comes too early, hands already warm, working for a better day, trying to keep me warm. Boss man count his tail.
To life. In session 5 of our study of Ecclesiastes, we read and discuss chapter 9, which seems in some respects to be perhaps the darkest chapter of the book. We will discuss Qohelet's assertions on the limits that circumscribe and define us as humans. He begins with death as the inevitable fate of every human being. He describes the contingent nature of all human endeavor, with incalculable death the ultimate contingency. But he also includes his most impassioned invitation to live fully. We will see dramatic interplay between shadow and light, death and life, sunlight and the grave. These are ideas woven throughout the book, but stand out here in chapter 9. We'll also read passages on the value and limits of wisdom. Chapter 10 includes another series of proverbs, more on the wise man versus the fool, and some on how to survive around kings, authority, and power. If there is a theme here, it is perhaps no one knows what is to happen, and who can tell anyone what the future holds. We'll take another look at the Epic of Gilgamesh and the rationale for suggesting a relationship between it and Ecclesiastes. But we begin, as always, with a prayer. O God, our Father, open our eyes and enlighten our minds as we study your word. So grant that our minds may know your truth and our hearts may feel your love, and then confirm and strengthen our wills that we may go out to live what we have learned. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Qohelet's protest against the universality of death reaches its climax in chapter 9. He begins his reflection with a focus on the righteous and the wise in particular. So let's begin chapter 9, verses 1 through 6. All this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, one does not know. Everything that confronts them is vanity, since the same fate comes to all, to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to those who sacrifice and those who do not sacrifice. As are the good, so are the sinners. Those who swear are like those who shun an oath. This is an evil in all that happens under the sun, that the same fate comes to everyone. Moreover, the hearts of humans are full of evil. Madness is in their hearts while they live, and after they go to the dead. But whoever is joined with all the living has hope, for a living dog is better than a dead lion. The living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no more reward, and even the memory of them is lost. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished. Never again will they have any share in all that happens under the sun. To be in the hand of God in biblical tradition means to be subject to God's power, be that for good or for ill. In a positive context, it refers to God's redeeming and providential care. Certainly it is the righteous and the wise who may be expected to benefit from such safekeeping. And yet, what is the meaning and substance of divine favor in the light of universal death? The same fate comes to everyone. Ultimately, the consequences of living righteously and living without scruples is the same: death. This seems to mean that the divine attitude toward persons is obscured. Divine favor looks the same as divine antipathy, viewed in the light of universal death. Qohelet laments a world bereft of recognizable signs of curse and blessing. He laments a world devoid of fundamental coherence. The proverb of verse 4 tells us a living dog is better than a dead lion. Dogs in ancient Israel were scavengers, not pets, and were therefore despised. Meanwhile, the lion is a beast of grandeur, an emblem of royal might and majesty. The implication is that life on any terms, is superior to death with honor. Yet the edge of the living have over the dead seems to be merely the knowledge that they will be dead. The living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. Qohelet is trying to explain to us the unimaginable. Is it possible? The final destination of our existence is non-existence. Death is not only the extinction of all those relationships that constitute us as unique, unrepeatable selves. It is the end of all potentiality. Whatever our aspirations, plans, or hopes, great or small, they are finished with death. There are no second opportunities beyond the grave. Let's move on to verses 7 through 10. Go eat your bread with enjoyment and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has long ago approved what you do. Let your garments always be white. Do not let oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life that you're given under the sun, because that is your portion in life, and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do with your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, to which you are going. Qohelet returns to the theme of enjoyment. If the same grim fate awaits us all, we are well advised to take advantage of the pleasures of life while we have them. If you have been granted the good things of this life to enjoy, a loaf of bread, a jug of wine, white garments, a head of hair moistened with oil, that in itself is a sign that you have found favor in God's eyes. You should take advantage now, because in the end there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, to which you are going. We notice that in verse 7, Qohelet directly addresses the reader, us. He is not talking about some wise folks or some other fools. He is not talking about them. He is talking to the reader, to us. Go eat your bread with enjoyment and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has long ago approved what you do. At this point, we're going to look at a passage from the Epic of Gilgamesh, which, if you recall, was written around 1700 BCE, or at least 1200 years before the Book of Ecclesiastes. This passage portrays an encounter between Gilgamesh and a wise woman, the tavern keeper, Siduri. Gilgamesh has watched the slow, debilitating death of his beloved friend and comrade in arms, Enkidu. Grief-stricken and horrified, he is set upon a frantic quest to find the secret of immortality. His plan is to search out the hidden dwelling of Utnapishtim, the flood hero, the one human who has obtained the status of immortal. Encountering Siduri at the nadir of his sorrow and terror, he pleads with her for help. Siduri responds this way: Gilgamesh, where are you going? The life you pursue, you will not find. When the gods made humankind, death they assigned to humankind. Life they kept in their own hands. You, Gilgamesh, let your stomach be full. Day and night enjoy yourself. Of each day make a festival. Dance and play day and night. Let your garments be sparkling fresh. Bathe your head. May you wash yourself in water. Look at the little one holding your hand. Let the wife in your embrace have pleasure time and again. This is the task of humankind. We see the progression of themes is the same: feasting, putting on fresh or bright garments, bathing or anointing one's head, and joy in one's loved ones. Both sequences, Qohelet's and the Epic of Gilgamesh, end with a similar synopsis, that these things are the lot of humanity. Verse 8 in Qohelet's words, let your garments always be white, do not let oil be lacking on your head, seem to echo the words of Siduri. They may be a kind of homage to Siduri's sage counsel. But what had Gilgamesh said to Siduri before she responded with the above counsel? There are two dimensions to Gilgamesh's anguished state: his bereavement, and his own death anxiety. Here is what he had said to Siduri. Enkidu, whom I love so dearly, who went with me in all hardships, has now gone to the fate of humankind. Days and nights I wept over him. I would not give him up for burial, as if he would rise up to me at my cry. 7 days and 7 nights, until a maggot fell down from his nose. Since his passing I have not found life. I have roamed like a hunter in the midst of the wild. O tavern keeper, now that I have seen your face, let me not see the death that I ever dread. Siduri's task was to offer the antidote to Gilgamesh's predicament. She doesn't speak to his bereavement, but to his death terror and his determined mission to thwart mortality. Her reply, as we saw, is plain, strong medicine. To be human is to die. Immortality is reserved for the gods. Deal with it. Fill your stomach, put on fresh clothes, bathe, make each day a celebration. There is the suggestion that Gilgamesh's obsession with eluding death has in some sense exiled him from life and its possibilities in the present. Qohelet has learned the lessons Siduri offers, and he is trying to impress them upon his listeners. In his exhortation, he uses vapor or mere breath to speak of the boundaries of human existence, their claims on us. It is the fleeting nature of one's life that fuels the demand to eat, drink, celebrate, and enjoy love's companionship. We go on to verses 11 and 12. Again I saw that under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor the bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to the skillful, but time and chance happen to them all. For no one can anticipate one's time. Like fish taken in a cruel net, or like birds caught in a snare, so mortals are snared at the time of calamity when it suddenly falls upon them. Death levels all our distinctions. Qohelet's grievance is not that the mighty warrior never wins the battle, or that the skillful never achieve success. What he points out is there are cases in which this does not occur. He laments the fact that there is no necessary correlation between the character and abilities of a person and the fate that overtakes that person. Humans are ever subject to circumstances beyond our control. Verse 13 moves us to a new passage that covers the variety of areas, including wisdom and folly, behavior in the presence of authority and power and competent government. So we begin verses 13 through 18 through the end of the chapter. I've also seen this example of wisdom under the sun, and it seemed great to me. There was a little city with few people in it. A great king came against it and besieged it, building great siege works against it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than might, yet the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heeded. The quiet words of the wise are more to be heeded than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one bungler destroys much good. In the conclusion of Qohelet's scenario here, the poor wise man and his accomplishments are forgotten. Thus, wisdom does not receive its proper due. His summation compares both its positive and negative facets. Wisdom is better than might, yet the poor man's wisdom is despised and his words are not heeded. There's a twist here. Wisdom is a supreme value. However, given society's concern with status, if wisdom is not accompanied by prestige, it will not have an audience. The two proverbs in verses 17 and 18 don't reference the story explicitly, but they continue to play on its tensions. Even softly spoken words of the wise are heard above those shouted by a ruler. The fact that the counterpart of the wise person is a ruler instead of the traditional fool in this passage may make this proverb especially suitable for this context, since it picks up on social status references in the short story. The parable of verse 18. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one bungler destroys much good. This is another observation about the precariousness of the efficacy of wisdom. Wisdom may be more powerful than even the best of weapons, but a single reckless, irresponsible person can do a great damage over which the calculations of wisdom have no control. Chapter 10 contains a series of proverbs. Some of these we will look at one at a time, but others seem to be grouped together, so we'll look at them as a group. Let's look at verse 1, chapter 10. Dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a foul odor, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. The Hebrew text here is apparently unclear. The Hebrew seems to say flies of death, tied with the Hebrew term for ferment. The original Hebrew doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So here, this is generally translated as dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a foul odor, or a dead fly makes the perfumer's oil chalice stink. The overall point seems to be that just as it takes only one foolish person to destroy much good, it takes only a tad of folly to nullify the efficacy of wisdom. Verses 2 and 3 also deal with wisdom and folly, so let's read that. Verse 2. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Even when fools walk on the road, they lack sense and show to everyone that they are fools. The parable of verse 2 probably refers to the mind, not to the heart, when we put it on the right for the wise man. In verse 3, it is the conduct of the fool that is important. In verse 2, we saw two optional paths, right and left. Here, with only one path, the road, the fool, in the most common task of walking down the road, the fool can't help but advertise his folly. He's just a fool, and he always does that. Verse 4, if the anger of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for calmness will undo great offenses. In the event of a superior's displeasure with him, the wise man should stand his ground with composure. This sounds a lot like Proverbs 15:1. A soft response turns back anger, but a harsh word stirs up wrath. Let's look at verses 5 through 7. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, as great an error as if proceeded from the ruler. Folly is set in many high places, and the rich sit in a low place. I have seen slaves on horseback and princes walking on the ground like slaves. Here Qohelet deplores a disturbed social order. He betrays his social conservatism here. He is in the company of the traditional sages who read such abrupt reversals to be a sign of the world gone badly awry. He accepts established hierarchies and thinks something is out of joint if the foolish or lowly are on top and the wise or the rich are on the bottom. He is dismayed to see slaves on horseback where they clearly don't belong. Verse 8 through 11 deal with the pitfalls of everyday life. Let's read those. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a snake. Whoever quarries stones will be hurt by them, and whoever splits logs will be endangered by them. If the iron is blunt and one does not whet the edge, then more strength must be exerted, but wisdom helps one to succeed. If snake bites before it is charmed, there is no advantage in a charmer. These parables seem to follow the traditional image of the evildoer meeting destruction by the snares he lays for others, except that here Qohelet doesn't seem to be using the example with its traditional meaning, because there is no suggestion of misconduct in the activities of breaching a borderless wall or quarrying stones and splitting logs. The injuries described are misfortunes of the hapless, not retribution for wrongdoers. It's mostly you have to be careful of the consequences of your actions. The walls were built of piled up stones without mortar, so it was easy to make a small breach in which a snake could hide. So watch out for the snake. The last one seems to be a little obscure. If the snake bites before it is charmed, there is no advantage in a charmer. The likely meaning is that if the snake charmer does not bother to practice his art before the snake bites, what good is his skill? In the next section, we see words that can hurt you, verses 12 through 15. Words spoken by the wise bring them favor, but the lips of fools consume them. The words of their mouths begin in foolishness, and their talk ends in wicked madness. Yet fools talk on and on. No one knows what is to happen, and who can tell anyone what the future holds? The toil of fools wears them out, for they do not even know the way to town. Once again, the wise person and the fool are set in diametric opposition. One's speech betrays one's essential character. As in the wisdom tradition of ancient Near East, wordiness characterizes the fool. But Qohelet revisits the theme of human ignorance of the future. In verse 14, the idea seems to be that since no one knows what will be, the chattering of the fool is all the more pointless. Let's go on to verse 16. Alas for you, O land, when your king is a child and your princes feast in the morning. When the king is a child, the term could also mean youth or lad, but even servant or anyone in a subordinate position, the opposition to noble. Qohelet's attachment to the established hierarchy is evident here. Princes feasting in the morning refers to giving themselves over to a life of irresponsible carousing at all times of the day. This is all in contrast to the next verse, 17. Let's read that. Happy are you, O land, when your king is a nobleman and your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. This shows an assumption of an integral relationship between the welfare of a land and the quality and character of its king. When a king rules ably and justly, he gives stability to his land and his subjects. However, an unfit king brings the demise of all. These two scenarios are followed by a proverb in which the corrosive nature of misrule portrayed as a house that deteriorates due to the laziness of inhabitants. Verse 18. Through sloth the roof sinks in, and through indolence the house leaks. The image of the house is particularly apt for Qohelet's purpose, since the Hebrew term for house can also refer to a royal dynasty. Let's go to verse 19. Feasts are made for laughter, wine, gladness, life, and money meets every need. The evident idea here is that people may fling themselves into feasting and drinking, but the overriding preoccupation is money, which among other uses pays the bills for the carousing. This brings us to the final verse of the chapter, verse 20. Do not curse the king, even in your thoughts, or curse the rich, even in your bedroom. For a bird of the air may carry your voice, or some winged creature tell the matter. Qohelet's reflection on governance at its best and at its worst brings him to a final caveat regarding judicious behavior in the presence of power. As in previous passages on the topic, he encourages circumspection. Here, Qohelet advises extreme caution when it comes to criticism of the king or anyone with political power or influence, lest one be overheard. He underscores his advice with hyperbole. Do not curse the king even in your thoughts, or curse the rich even in your bedroom. The walls have ears. A saying from the Aramaic Proverbs of Ahikwa, a wisdom text circulating among the Jews in Egypt during the Persian period, carries the association of words and birds. In that text, the injudicious speaking of a word is compared to the release of a bird, presumably with the idea that one can no more control a word once it is spoken than one can a bird set to flight. Other ancient Near Eastern texts have similar warnings about criticisms of authorities. Chapter 11 begins with another passage on the uncertainty of future events and our inability to control or even plan for them. We'll see more on the theme of limitations on human knowledge. The last part of chapter 12 is an epilogue, apparently written by an editor who attempted to rein in Qohelet's radical vision more in line with conventional Jewish thought. We'll read and discuss chapters 11 and 12 in session 6, our final session on the Book of Ecclesiastes. I hope you can join us in our discussion Monday evening. If you have not already done so, you can send an email to online.classes@northgateumc.org to get the Zoom link. In the meanwhile, have a good week.
People talk about difference, but I just see the same. Every heart need kindness, every soul need a name, and we're deep. Children laughing somewhere, sounds of better days. Keep the light inside you, don't let the darkness stay. So sing a song for mercy, sing it clear and kind. We all walk this same good earth, just trying to ease our mind.